Good morning, everyone. Oh man, I just love to see all these faces and names popping up on the screen. Oh, it's so good. Yay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Breakfast Club online edition. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Oh, I just love seeing all these faces. It's just like, yay, we're together again. Oh, it's so nice. Hi, everyone. Oh, so great. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I'm feeling all the love today. I watched a beautiful video this morning. Jennifer Hudson performed on her interview with Oprah. Oprah's doing COVID chats from home. If you haven't seen them, do check it out. And Jennifer did this, a performance of a song called Moan. I don't know if it's a new song or if it's an older, but it is such a moving performance, and it just blew my heart open. And I wanted to start off by sharing that with all of you. We'll send the link afterwards, but if you haven't seen it, do watch it. It is epic, and it just was the kind of thing that I needed this morning. So I wanted to share that with you. Also wanted to acknowledge that today is National Takeout Day. The restaurant industry across the country has come together, and we're hoping to make Wednesdays Takeout Day. So if you can support, if you can't, maybe just pass on the word. There's a lot of, I think we all have a restaurant or a chef or friends in the business that are near and dear to us. And so many of them are, just doing what they can to survive right now, like all of us. And this is one of their initiatives to survive and to keep their businesses going and to just feed their communities. And I think we can all agree that community is everything right now. So if you can support, and at the very least spread the word. I also wanted to make a small announcement. Louise Upperton, who's on the call today, she is an OG Breakfast Club supporter, and she has started an initiative called Acts of Isolation, where she is making masks for people. They are cloth masks, and they have a spot for a filter, and you can buy a mask for $25, and the money goes to the Canadian Food Bank. And I just want to say bravo to her. That's amazing. And it's such a beautiful initiative, and the website is great. You can find her Acts of Kindness Acts of Isolation on Instagram. And there's a link to her website there. So do support if you can. And also I just want to reiterate that everybody needs to wear a mask. So in case there's any confusion, for you runners out there who are getting out and hitting the pavement because you need to get some exercise, wear a mask. If you're out doing anything, wear a mask. If you are servicing the public, wear a mask. So in case there was any confusion, please just wear a mask. It is, if you are asymptomatic, it is the best way for you to protect people around you. And it's just that extra step that we all need to take. So that is my PCME for today. Thank you for indulging me. And I have Angela McNally with us today. Hello, Angela. Angela is a award-winning business and life coach and co-host of the wonderful podcast, Just Like You, which she does with her husband. And she's a beautiful human and an incredible storyteller. And Angela, we're so happy to have you with us today. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. What a beautiful, alive community for 9:30 in the morning. I love how many people have hopped on. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. It is, I've had my eye on you for a while, and wanted you to be on the Breakfast Club. So I'm sad that we can't come together in person, but I'm grateful.
One day.
Yes, exactly. That you're showing up for us here. We're both wearing our pajamas. Thank you very much. We both in our black PJs. Just see, in sync. We're in sync. So Angela, you're somebody who is deeply spiritual. How are you making sense of all of this?
Oh, I am and I'm not, right? I think just like everyone else, we can try and use our logical minds to make sense of what's happening, but none of us really, really, really know right now exactly what is happening. One thing I will say that I was paying attention to a lot eerily just before this, a lot in my work. If you get my weekly newsletter, it's called Soul Mail, and I was talking a lot about this, that the world as a whole was, all of us were in the masculine. So both sexes are meant to be in both the feminine and the masculine, regardless of gender or sexuality. But in our society, we all became masculine, which the traits of that are, the doer, in action, being logical, use systems, analytical, do, assertive. Both sexes were, males more so because it's traditionally unsafe for men to be more in the feminine. And women are just being asked to step up in more masculine roles more than ever. And the world was out of balance because of it in such a big way. And so the only gift, because there's a lot of tragedy and a lot of hurt, obviously, through this, but the only gift through this that I'm really holding on to right now is that we're all going back into balance. Because right now we're forced, many of us, I know that there are some beautiful frontline workers and people that are still very much in the doing, but the majority of people, everybody I assume on this call, is pushed into the feminine, which is to just be and be in flow. Hopefully some creativity has been ignited, more connection, empathy, emoting, lots of
Yes.
emotions.
Yes.
And so I believe that like a big part of this is that we're going back into balance. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know why, but that's what I'm holding on to right now.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. You have a wonderful podcast called Just Like You, which I'm a huge fan of, that you do with your husband. So you're used to working with your husband. You work together beautifully. You have a great dynamic, but you weren't used to working together all the time.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that?
I mean, if you've met my husband or you've like heard him on the podcast, he is larger than life. He's an extrovert to the max. He's just like a kind, like he will literally talk to a hole in a wall at all times. And while I love people and connection, I need my own space sometimes. And I work from home primarily, and he is in the clothing business. And so he has an office and he's usually out during the day. So I would say the first week, it was me. Like it took me, I think it was just everything. Like I wasn't wrapping my mind around what was actually happening. Like all of us, it took us a second.
Sure.
And then I'd be like, but wait, why are you home? Like, wait, like it was just so, and so it was way more me. It took me a second just to wrap my mind around like, this is a new reality. And then I got used to it and had my adjustment like most people do. We're really blessed. We have a cottage. It's an investment property. We typically rent it out in the summer. So we've been living there. I'm home Toronto for 24 hours, National Takeout Day, and many other things. But we found a sense of peace now. We found a sense of, being able to be in the same space and work with one another. But I'd be lying if I didn't say it was an adjustment. For sure. Mm-hmm.
It's like every day. I think like my husband Leslie and I are starting to look at each other like, oh, you're still here. Oh, you're here again. And we also live in one room. There's no hiding. Like right now, he is taking this call from the bathroom because that's the only room that has a door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's,
yeah. Anyway. So is it, so I mean, you touched on this a little bit, but I know that you've been continuing with your business, like you're a business and a life coach, and you're still continuing to coach. Is it business as usual, or is it business as unusual?
It's been interesting for sure. I will definitely say this is the hardest coaching I've ever done by far. For the first few weeks, I think I'm a comfort to my clients, like, that's my natural energy, and so my business felt like 20 times the work, and so it was a lot of healthy boundaries that needed to be set of just, when we can communicate, and just so that I could feel grounded all the time and then show up as my best self, because there
Sure.
was just it was a lot of adjustment for all of us. Um, and then I find, because like a lot of my clients, I do life coaching as part of business coaching. And so there was a lot of me needing to check my ego at the door,
Okay.
um, which was an internal struggle for me, because I'm so used to being like the fixer, oh, slap this system on this.
Sure.
Oh, I just like have the answers. I've been in online business for so long. And
Yeah.
so to be able to sit with my clients and just know that we both don't totally know the answer right now, and be confident enough in myself to just hold space for them and allow them to feel whatever they're feeling, express whatever they're feeling, and be there for them, and know that that's enough, was work. So I find that it's difficult coaching right now, but it's teaching me so much every single day that I know there's a purpose to it. I, again, don't totally know it yet, but it's definitely business as unusual in terms of the interaction in the business, but business as usual. Um, Luckily, I know I'm blessed for that, in terms of it really, my business hasn't been totally affected at this point, which is wonderful.
Sure. I want
Mhm.
to go back to that a little bit more, just because I'm really curious about this. Saving space for people and just listening. I'm similar to you in, like, I just want to fix everything. Like, when somebody comes to me with a problem or they're upset about something, I'm like, how do I fix it? How do I fix this?
Yeah, I
And
know.
and I know that I have to become a better listener and just holding space so that people feel, my loved ones and people in my community know that they can just come to me for someone who will listen. Do you have any advice or any tips on how everyone can be a better listener?
So we can't fix things for other people,
Mm.
uh, on this level. Of course, if I'm working with someone in a business system, or you're working with someone, in a party planning or a tablescape or making a recipe, we know our craft.
Yes.
But right now, like, it's not about our skills. People just want to have a safe space to have a full expression of their emotions. And triggers look like things that aren't actually the issue. So there can be an issue in someone's business or someone's life, like their husband says something and it triggers them, or their father-in-law or their mother-in-law, whatever it is, and they're coming to you just wanting to like rant or whatever it is about that. Um, or like something to do in business. There's a few things, like we want to keep the conversation positive, but also I encourage everyone both to ask the person that's talking with you, but also if it happens with yourself, because I think it's happening with all of us every single day, is what is this actually bringing up for me?
Mhm.
Because it often is not that one interaction. It's an older trauma. It's an older version of something that happened. It's a fear coming up, feeling unloved, unworthy. So, you know, if someone's coming to you, Jasmine, you just have to take a deep breath. I can
Okay.
teach you some stuff. Like, I really always will protect myself in like a white bubble of light when I'm talking to people, setting an intention before a conversation that any energy that is exchanged in this conversation, like, is our own, and
Okay.
that anything we need to release, like, we release with love and light, that we
Mhm.
don't take it on, because it's
Mhm.
so easy um to have a conversation with someone right now that is obsessed with talking about the news, the death toll, how
Yeah.
you know job loss, and those things are so real and so heartbreaking, but it's also not healthy to be in that space all day every day.
Yes.
So I think number one for you is, and for all of us, is creating healthy boundaries. What does that look like? So
Okay.
Anthony, my husband, will watch the news all day every day and want to talk about it all day every day. It's a no for me.
Yeah.
So he can put it on his iPad and put it in his headphones, and if that's what he needs to do, then that's fine. So
Sure.
it's deciding what's comfortable for you, and then knowing that you can't fix this. Like, this is bigger than all of us. There is no answer to this.
Yeah.
And then third is just knowing that people's emotions are 10 times bigger than they would be on a normal day with their triggers. And so sometimes they just need an ear, and other times they need like you to just pour love into them. And I think it's, you just got to tune in, but know that there's no fixing right now, anything.
Thank you. That was so helpful. I forgot to talk about the chat. I always do that. I get into my rants in the beginning and I forget all of the things. I need to start taking notes. So we have a group chat, which everyone is applauding Leslie for hiding out, hiding out in the bathroom. But I wanted to mention that, you know, we have always, for anybody who's new to this, we always do a Q&A with our lovely speaker at the end. So it's your chance to share information, to ask questions to Angela. So any questions that you have, pop it in there. And then in about 10, 15 minutes, we'll move into Q&A and we can unmute you and you can share your question and ask your question to Angela. So we can still have a chance to have some dialogue and connect. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about your daily practice. To me, you know, I watch you on Instagram and I feel like you are someone who is so good at honoring your daily practice. And I wanted to ask you, is it easier? Is it the same? Is it harder? Can you share a bit about that?
Yes. So I would say for the first couple of weeks, especially because we immediately made the transition to our cottage. So it almost felt like a bit of a vacation.
Okay.
But I think it also, like for many people that are not working, being at home with loved ones or alone, um, it's an adjustment, you know? And so for us, I think we swung into vacation mode a little bit too much.
Sure.
And it was great. But what I found was that in those moments of stillness, I was having a lot more anxiety. And so for me, the reason that I do my daily practice every single day is because it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it went from maybe like falling off the rails for a week or two to now I feel more dedicated than ever. And it's not because like I feel like I need to stay on track and I need a routine and all that stuff. Like life is crazy and up and down and I'm very in flow right now, but it's more that like I feel grounded, more able to connect with my husband, my clients, my friends, and my family from a place of peace.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just I just do it because it feels so good.
And for those who don't know, can you share what your daily practice is? What
Yeah,
it consists
so
of?
it's looking a little bit different right now, but traditionally it's, well, actually I'll back it up a second because I feel like so many of us think a routine, like a morning practice, needs to be something that we dread. When I was like younger in my 20s, I was so heavily in the fitness industry. And so like a morning routine would look like doing too much cardio and not eating before, and just really something that didn't feel good for me, that I dreaded going into it. And what I realized as I got older was that like grounding myself in a routine that actually I look forward to every day is the key for me to then excel throughout my day. And so for me, it I have a little meditation spot in my house that I just sit at and I write down to just get in good flow, 5 to 10 things that I'm grateful for the day. And then I meditate, often using a mantra, which I share daily on Instagram. And then lately I've been adding the added piece of journaling because, like I've mentioned, we all have such big feelings right now, and feelings are so much better out than in. So some of the stuff I can safely speak with my husband about, but some of the stuff, like I woke up the other day like irately angry at someone in my life for no reason. It had nothing to do with that person, right? But it's like getting into that, okay, what is this actually trying to teach me? And journaling it out of my body and realizing that it links to something that happened in my past and that it's obviously coming up to feel and heal. So it's the stillness, the paying attention to the feelings that I feel is like the most important thing that you can do right now is just when you're feeling these triggers to actually just get into stillness and listen. Yeah. So
that's beautiful. And thank you for that. Like I recently learned, that journaling is a form of meditation, because at least it's for those who can't sit still with their thoughts, which was me for a very long time. I still struggle with it. But just getting those thoughts down on paper allows me to go deeper into self, and connecting through journaling has been such a great tool. I resist it, but it's a great tool.
And so that's the thing, right? Is that's so beautiful that you've incorporated that as a meditation practice. But I do want to say, I'm not of the belief that meditation is like being thoughtless. I know that that's typically what people have been taught in the past. To me, I think of meditation as creating space to hear what's happening inside.
Right.
So because we have all these, and some, like, they're uncomfortable thoughts and feelings so often, right? Society has trained us all to think we're only supposed to feel good, but, like, shocker, we're humans and we're meant to feel all of the feelings, right? Not just the good ones, but we hear so many beautiful speakers talk about this all the time, but we numb when we feel the bad feelings come up with food or drugs or alcohol or whatever it is. Right, all because we don't want to feel it. And that's, especially in this time, I'm sure peaked for all of us, myself included, right? And which is also safe, fine, and okay. But when you sit in meditation, you don't have to call it meditation. If you have a journal, if that's like the way that you process better, that's amazing. But it's actually just coming home to yourself. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What's coming up for you today? How can I honor you? How can I make you feel better? Like, it is such an act of self-love and just tuning into what's happening within. Right?
Yes.
So add journal to that. Awesome. But just know, for everyone that wants to try meditation, don't think about turning your mind off. Just actually listen to what's happening inside without immediately reaching for that brownie or that drink. It's just breathing into it and letting yourself know, I am safe. All is well.
Yes.
I am worthy.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. That's so nice. What are some of your guilty pleasures?
I've been baking and cooking so much. I started blogging over 10 years ago, and it was primarily food.
Okay.
And just as me as a person and what I feel called to share with the world has evolved, food has sort of fallen off of that. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I was the captain of Team Masculine right before this all happened.
Okay.
Right? Even though naturally I'm such a caregiver and a nurturer, and I have feminine energies in like business and life, I was like team doer, team let's go, team systems, and so a part of that was ordering a meal delivery service and not tapping into that joy of cooking for me. A part of that, it was having things done for me so that I could continue to do. I have found so much joy in cooking anything and everything and baking so maybe it's supposed to be a guilty pleasure, but it's actually, I'm not guilty. I don't feel guilty.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's even better.
Yeah.
And I mean, so, as somebody who is coaching people and acknowledging the importance of balance between masculine and feminine, and honoring self, how do you balance the two? Like, how are you making space for the joys and enjoying them, and not letting it go too far the other way? Like, I think I told you on the phone the other day that my husband always says that I have two speeds, and that's like stop and fast forward. So I'm like all in on like being healthy and being, taking care of myself, or I'm like, I'm drinking wine at noon and I'm going to eat an entire lasagna.
I love you.
Thank you. Ditto.
I can't wait till this is over. We can do that together.
Yes.
Right now is such an interesting time because it's easy to do whatever your makes you feel the most comfortable. And so what I mean by that is, beginning of quarantine, Angela was like, well, how am I going to create content when my husband's home? Like, how am I going to make videos? How am I going to do live chats? How am I going to coach my clients? How, do. And then there's this other part of me being like, now that we've been up in nature and I've had this joy of, reconnecting to old passions and being in my feelings, to be honest.
Yes.
It would be easy to just sit in that all day, every day. And so I think that for me right now, it's about getting really clear on what priorities are and what things need boundaries.
Okay.
So boundaries are primarily in my doer side right now, because I literally could be answering Voxers from clients 24/7. So it's, I do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday are like my communication days with clients. And then after, like beyond that, I get into meditation practice, and my main question every single day is, what would you have me do? And I'm finding that is really guiding me to what I'm supposed to be doing. And some days it's literally lying on the couch with Anthony and watching Netflix all day. And some days it's actually getting creative in writing. And so my advice to anyone who feels like they have two speeds, feels like you have to control yourself with a system, right? And a plan and a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you let go because you're off the system, it's like, woo, right? Is actually tuning into what feels good for you in that moment. And that day it might be having wine at noon and eating a lasagna, and that's totally fine, right? But maybe being mindful of, am I over systematizing and over routining things because I feel out of control right now? Or am I like overindulging because I feel like I need to numb? Or is this actually just really fun to play music and cook with my husband? And I think it's always about tuning into what actually feels good. And your body will tell you.
Okay.
It will, like 100%. Think about like that last piece of like cake or that last glass of wine that your body is like, I don't know if we really need that.
Right.
And we do it anyways and we feel terrible, right? Or that extra episode at night or whatever it is. Like, you already know it's a no in your body. And it actually, like, if you start tuning in and listening, you will feel like, oh, thank you. That was great. Now, tomorrow, if we want to indulge again, that's fine. It's the overdoing of everything. Doing, right? The masculine.
Yes.
So
that's over systemizing. That seems like,
I know. Same girl.
Yeah.
Same.
If there's a checklist for it, I want it.
Me too.
Oh my gosh.
And you can incorporate that, right?
Yeah.
So Mondays, I actually sit with, okay, what needs to get done and make it for the week.
Yes.
And then you can like pluck out what feels right for you each day, rather than it being like every single moment is scheduled. It's like, what needs to happen this week, and then be more in flow. Because right now is the time. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, I'd love to learn to be more in flow. You had Coach Carrie on your podcast, and
isn't she the best?
The best. And she talked about, looking at that list of things that you have to do. And she has that time block every day where she accomplishes the things that she has to do and then flows beyond that. And I thought that was really powerful.
It is such a good one.
Maybe something I could try to implement now, because I think before all of this happened, I was somebody who, as much as I try to chunk out time for given projects, I was so reactive 9 to 5, just at the mercy of my clients. And so it got to the point, and those who have worked with me know that, like, I start getting up when it's busy. I'm getting up at 4:00 in the morning just so I can bang out the things I need to do before responding to the needs of our clients between 9 to 5. And I know that there's lots of people who do it the opposite. They finish dinner and then they're working until midnight. for me, I'm a morning person, so I've been doing that, but I'm trying to, I'd love to look at that as, you know, implementing the time of the things that have to get done, and then try to be in flow and creating more space for the joy.
It's I create healthy boundaries is your new mantra. I create healthy boundaries. I create healthy boundaries all the time. And so when it's time to get back into full swing of things for you, which I feel like you have so much going on, but when it's full swing, it's about, you know, unless it's an emergency where, you know, you mark an email urgent, this is what I say to my clients, then I'll be in touch with you. Okay. Otherwise, these are my communication hours.
Okay.
Right. So it makes it really clear for them. I need space for myself. I love you. I'm here for you. Mark the email urgent, like write in the title urgent. I'll be there for you. I will see it come through. Otherwise, I speak to my clients from 10 to 4, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay. And that's it. Right. So I think it's something like that where maybe when you get into your non-quiet mind meditation practice next time and you use the mantra, I create healthy boundaries, see what feels right for you.
Right. And so with your business clients, when you are engaging with a new client, you let them know that these are your hours and that's how you engage in a new relationship. And then do you find you have to keep reminding people, or are people pretty good with respecting it?
For the most part, people are pretty good with respecting it. I mean, I think you will always have that one client that tests you and teaches you a lot of lessons. Yeah. And so I think that it comes from our energy, right?
Sure.
Actually, I did send a reminder email earlier this year because I had some new girls come on board, and I got 3 reply emails from my clients saying, I love how you set boundaries with clients.
Yeah.
Because they're all working with clients also. Like, we all want that spaciousness in our schedule. We all want time for ourselves. We all want what we're being forced into right now. Maybe not to this extreme and not with people ill, but in terms of the balance of time for self and business, I think that's going to be one of the biggest blessings that comes out of this is people really are reevaluating what's important.
And I feel like the more people who do it, like having this conversation with you, and as somebody that I admire and I respect greatly, I feel like that gives me permission to be able to put that, you know, it's like you just need somebody in your life that you respect to do that. And then you would then feel like, oh, I can do that too.
And you can, and people will respect it, I promise. And you give them the out. Like you say, mark an email urgent and I'll be in touch with you. Sure. It makes them feel safe because they don't want to feel like I could never reach her. But if you say, I'm here for you for anything, but I'm not actively monitoring my inbox or my phone other than these hours.
Okay.
Right.
That's great. I'm going to try that. So do you, just in your opinion, as you observe the world and you're connecting spiritually with self, do you believe that this catastrophic event is an opportunity to connect with people, with self? Like, do you see this? Do you see blessings in this? Do you see an opportunity in this?
I do. I think there's dual opportunity. So in terms of connection, it's wild how I was still working from home, doing the same things that I was doing, but I'm thinking about the people that I love because there are so many people that are struggling right now from a mental health perspective, from a physical health perspective, you know, job loss. And so I think in this stillness, I've been thinking about the people that I love that I was too busy to talk to or reach out to all the time. Right. And so for a connection piece, and I've been on so many beautiful calls like this and meeting so many awesome people online. And yeah, like there's such an amazing connection piece to it. And I don't really know where that's going or why. I think people want to connect with things that make them feel good right now. Right. And that's all I ever want to do. So that I love that piece of it. I also think that the bigger lesson in this is connection to self, that we're being really forced inwards.
Yeah.
Like that yeah, Mother Earth is getting a beautiful chance to heal herself right now, but so are we.
Yes.
And that we have this time and space to feel big feelings that wouldn't really be convenient if you had to run a dinner party that night, or
Right.
work a shift at a restaurant, or get on a coaching call. And so we have the spaciousness right now to sort of, tackle some demons and old traumas and things. And the world may feel like it's crumbling around you when you do that deep inner healing work,
Yeah.
but it's always built 10 times better. I've been through a lot in my life, and I promise everyone that if you're struggling right now and it feels like everything around you is crumbling, lean into it, feel it, journal it, speak to someone you trust, feel your feelings deeply, because when you do that work, you come out a more empathetic, a more loving, more trusting, whole person. And when you are in that energy, you attract beautiful blessings. So the connection to others, yes, but connection to self, I think, that's just what I feel this is even more.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. You also, when we chatted, you talked about how old trauma could be coming up for people by way of this stillness, this catastrophic pandemic. Just the heaviness of this is bringing things to the surface.
So a few things. So I've had, you can listen on my podcast for To My Whole Story, but I've had it like a wild life. And so it's just interesting to witness things that I know are definitely from the past right now come up and rear their heads. So an example is both of my parents were addicts, and they both lost houses. 7 years ago, I realized it was only 7 years ago. I was saying to my husband last night, because I was in this deep place of gratitude. Um, I was actually renting a place in this building that we now own in, and one of my businesses had folded, and I had to rent out my place, like sublet my place, and move into my brother's couch, and was like basically a couch surfer for 3 months before I rebuilt my life. And then being able to come from my cottage to this place that we own and have everything we needed. I don't know, I was in a really, really deep space of gratitude. But I'd be lying if all that loss and financial stress that I've once experienced isn't rearing its head and trying to tell me that it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So often when we have something that is a really big pain point in the past, it's coming up to just either let you know, like, I'm safe right now. This is not the case. This is not the truth. This is an old thing. I have energetically graduated from this, and I've moved on. I know another example I gave you was we've experienced recurrent miscarriage over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And we have done, a million and one things, but the path that we were on, which is actually supposed to start today, was it's complicated to explain, but it's approved in the States. They use it all the States, and it's an infusion. Anyways, I don't even know if people care about these details, but essentially we were so excited because the path that they use in Canada we don't fit into that box, right? Like, we get pregnant easily. We can't keep the child. And in Canada, they use IVF a lot.
Right.
And so we were just so excited about this path that we were about to start it. And we're delayed now, of course, because you can't be going into fertility clinics to get all of these treatments. And so what felt like such finality when we got the news, like, I was hysterical for 3 days. It isn't finality. It isn't, it's the trauma of losing. We've had 6 miscarriages, so 6 babies in the past. Just looking at your beautiful face is like making me, so it's the memory of that coming up. So when we get the news that we're delayed, it feels as strongly that that's happening again, when that isn't actually the truth. The truth is we're delayed. We're not, this isn't final. And so I think that that's the question for all of us, is when we get these feelings coming up, is this 100% real and true? And hey, it might be. You might have just lost your job. It might be difficult to pay rent right now. And
Yeah.
I've been there. I understand it. I know the fear. You will be okay and you will be safe.
Yeah.
Um, it, health is another angle right now, which we don't know if we'll be safe. And that's scary and
Yes.
makes you take a deep breath. But if you are not in one of those two categories right now and something is coming up that you've experienced in the past, my advice to you would be like, is this real and true for me right now? Like, are these the actual facts? Or am I blessed enough to have an internet connection, to be connecting with 40 other beautiful souls? Do I have a roof over my head? Do I have food? Can I afford to do National Takeout Day? Whatever it is, that's enough. Like that's the other blessing in this right now is we don't need much, right? Like it really takes us down to like what is truly important. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
It's
it's
like
just,
to see past the fear, you know, to recognize that, you know, if I'm learning from you now, it's to recognize that those feelings as they come in, to acknowledge them, to honor them, but to realize that they're coming from a place of fear. It's not
yeah.
in fact your reality.
And if it is your reality, ask for help.
Yes.
Message me if you
Yes.
need to. If it is your reality, like that's a different story. And I know there are so many people that I think on this call, and I know in my circle that would be willing to help, right? So if it really is your reality, that's different. But I think we think things are our reality when we're not, because we all have trauma in our past. We
Yeah.
all have hard, difficult things. You know, nobody is immune to pain. That's the human experience. That's what makes us such beautiful, loving, empathetic souls. I don't know why. I wish I did, but
Yeah.
it's part of it. And so, yeah, it's just there's a lot of we're projecting what we think is real and true. That's the big emotions that I was talking about earlier. Everyone is 10 times more intense to deal with right now.
Yeah.
And it's because we believe that we're not safe, but we are.
We are. And I think, yeah, it's important to count those blessings because, you know, we talked about this with Carlin last week, but gratitude really is the pathway. You know,
Yeah.
it is the tool that allows us to lift ourselves out of that darkness and to invite that light back in. So
So
I
true.
want to save some time for questions because we could just talk all day.
I know.
But before we move on, I want to acknowledge that this powerful group of people has, you know, come together and shown up for us today, and they've all contributed to C17, which is a charity that's very near and dear to you. And we've raised over $450 to donate.
Amazing.
And I was hoping you could share with everybody while we're waiting to move on to the questions, if you could share with us a little bit about the charity for those who don't know.
Yeah, so C17 is a charity that contributes to quality of life and research for blood-based cancers in children. My cousin has or had twins, and Addison, one of the sweet twins, died a year ago next week from AML, which is a leukemia. And so what we learned later was that when you donate to cancer in general, only 5% go to childhood cancer. And so her parents are really big on sharing C17 as a link to do more research for these sweet young babies. And so I felt that with a year coming up that there couldn't be a more perfect charity to honor sweet Addison, who is such an angel. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw her a lot last year, but yeah. So thank you everyone for donating in her sweet name.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's really so powerful to know that, you know, people can just show up and they give what they can, and together we're making a small impact on a charity that's so important.
Yeah,
so thank
you.
you. So I wanted to open it up to questions and see who has any questions. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll through the chat. Oh, lots of praise. That's beautiful. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So I'm going to unmute Allie to ask her a question about support re-fertility. Allie, are you there?
I am. I'm here.
Allie.
Hi.
Hi.
Angela, thank you so much for sharing, and obviously Jasmine, as always, for having this awesome discussion. But you definitely struck a chord. Just curious, how do you get support for this, difficult time?
I'm seeing your question. So do you mean regarding fertility or just in general?
Well, I think very, pertaining to that. Yeah. I haven't experienced exactly what you've experienced, but it's just such a tug of war with yourself on
Oh, I
patience
know.
and just forgiving yourself a little bit.
You're so right. So, our fertility journey has changed my life dramatically. Um, it it's shown me who I can lean on and when and why, and who I can safely communicate with. And those are hard lessons to learn when you're going through such an intense trauma. I would say that my husband is the number one person that I lean on and get support from, just because we're in it together and we obviously are feeling a lot of the same feelings. But I would be lying if I didn't admit that it's been a difficult road in that particular area, because it's hard, even when you know someone that's going through fertility, whatever. We all have our own stories, right? No two stories are the same. So what someone's experience is completely different, right? And although we have the same pain and the same shame and guilt and all of those things that you mentioned, that I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way, because I do know so deeply what that feels like. It's sometimes hard to compare stories. And so a lot of it comes back to strengthening a spiritual practice. A lot of it comes back to a lot of what we talked on this call of that inner work and, what is this trying to teach me? And I mean, gosh, I could talk to you about this for so long, and feel free to message me. Support, though, is my spiritual practice and my husband and a few trusted friends. But again, I would say that with friends and family, you have to be careful energetically of how you're feeling before you share, because you never know what people are going to say or how they're going to say it.
Yeah.
Because they have not experienced what you're experiencing, and they never will in their life. And so people cannot always meet you in your heart the way that you need them to. And so just be really careful with your heart. I think that that's the best advice I can give is, there are support groups. There are people that do understand. Feel free to message me if you want to talk about this more. And then get that one person on your team that you can trust all the time. For me, it's my husband.
Yeah, no, I think going back to the gratitude conversation, that's ultimately where you just need to end up, because it's so funny. We have everything we need, and it's do we really need to make this feeling so bad, Yes.
That's it so much. It's that it's difficult to focus on the good when you're, on such a difficult path. I get that, but there is always something to be grateful for. A beautiful meal you had, a nice conversation with a friend, connecting in meditation, a cute dog you walk by on the street. There is always something to be thankful for. And that is what I root in my practice, and I have for the 3 years that we've been on this journey. And that is actually what strengthened my practice originally so deeply, because I mentally wouldn't have made it through this if it wasn't for my spiritual practice. So that would be anyone struggling with anything. It doesn't have to be fertility right now, is tune into yourself and don't do things that don't feel right for you. So if I'm sharing something that you're like, ooh, I don't want to do that, figure out what you do want to do. Make sure it feels good and commit. Because do you guys follow the holistic psychologist on Instagram?
No.
She's the best account. She's my favorite account. I'll send it to you, Jasmine, and you can send it out.
Thank you. Yeah, I will share it with everybody afterwards.
She's so fantastic. And she speaks a lot about, so she is a traditionally trained psychologist, but she is very good at the spiritual work also. And she talks about making small daily commitments to yourself. So sitting down and writing 5 things that you're grateful for. That could be it. That could be your whole practice. And maybe that's a good place to start if you don't have something going on. Just wake up, take 5 deep breaths, write 5 things you're grateful for. That's it. But do it every single day, because she talks about it being the act of reparenting yourself. So when you were a child, you had certain expectations on your parents, and they're humans, so they're not going to meet those all, right? And so then you feel betrayed, and then you carry that on as an adult into betraying yourself. So you say you're going to go to the gym for 2 hours, and who the frick really wants to do that? And so you don't do it, but you're actually betraying yourself when you do it. And so the act of doing something really small every single day, like the 5 gratitude list or 5 deep breaths or meditation, but committing every single day is an act of reparenting yourself, because you're infusing self-love and commitment into yourself. And that has transformed my life through this whole process. So I would definitely follow her, but definitely spiritual practice is my answer to you, Allie. And
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allie. And you know, Angela, I shared this with you the other day, but I want to share this with everyone. I think you are so incredibly brave for sharing your fertility journey with everyone, with your community. And I think it's so important because so many of us, myself included, are on this path or have been on this path, and we don't feel confident or open enough to share. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, Angela. I'm so grateful that you keep that open. So I want to move on to our next question. Oh, and before I do, Jamie, who's facilitating for us on the back end, she just sent me a note saying that actually we had over 45 people on the call today, and we raised $600.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we had some last minute, very generous people. So a bit more to give to C17. So I want to ask Emily Wong to ask her question. Emily, are you there?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi, Emily.
So glad to be here. Hi, Angela.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to ask in regards, you kind of touched base on this in the beginning in regards of like setting those healthy boundaries and kind of checking in with yourself too, like if you feel that you are projecting something else, especially like towards your clients, you just have to like check yourself and kind of leave it at the door. But I guess this is kind of more of a generalized question kind of in the larger sphere of things, because there is so much uncertainty in regards to what the economy is going to be like when the crisis is over, and if things will pick up the same way that they did. In regards to like working one-on-one right now, with clients, like do you find, is it a bit of a balance in regards to like how much energy that you're giving them versus what you're giving yourself versus like taking on clients, etc.?
Yeah, it's an interesting time. It's a good question, and it's bang on. It's really, I've had to be so mindful of how I manage energy in my own life and how I share it with clients, because my natural nature in work is to dive headfirst into it and just show up. And then also because I have a unique type of coaching where I work really, really, really closely with my clients. I basically know their whole life story and everything about them, because I believe when you know holistically everything that's happening, and you can hold so much more space to believe in someone and allow them to thrive in such a bigger way. Oh, shoot. Sorry. 1 second. AirPod down. Okay. Sorry. And so for me, that's really hard to turn off because they become my friends on top of my clients. But I've found that even before what's happening right now, it's so I can't show up as my best self. I show up angry. I show up agitated. I show up in fear. I'm not holding space for them the way they deserve it if I don't take time for myself. And then second to your question around the economy, we don't know how this is all going to unfold. I think a lot of people are already really suffering. I don't believe that things are going to go back to exactly what they once were. But what you need to believe is in each person's individual journey. So an example is we have a friend who has a business. I won't give too much detail, but I believe that business has needed to close. It's been a money pit for a really long time. But, it's ego, it's pride, it's all of that stuff. And now it's looking like it may. And for me, I said a little thank you prayer for him yesterday, because I'm like, this allows him to get out of his ego's own way. So even though it's completely sad that he has to close his doors on his journey, I believe that's the right next thing for him. So if we look at everything as this big, catastrophic, which it is, that can feel very heavy, right? It can feel like too much to bear for you, just this one person. But if you can look at each person's individual story as something will unfold for their highest good, something will be better. A great example is me 7 years ago. I closed down my nutrition business, lived on my brother's couch, and better unfolded for me. Right? So it's you just have to keep the faith that each individual story is going to unfold the way that it can. And historically, we've had recessions every 10 years-ish. We'll be okay. We will be okay, right? This is a very weird one. And I hope I'm answering your question properly. I feel like sometimes it just speaks through me and I just go. Yeah.
I think it's like you said, it's almost like this revealing or this shedding, like you said, of the ego. And yeah, seeing how and if most people can tap into what they authentically want, right? So
right. And what's the next best thing for them. And often a lot of pain comes before the beauty, and we have the time to lean into that right now. And so obviously mental health is a factor, and I want people to be safe about it and make sure you're getting the help you need if you need someone to hold space for you. But if you just know that you're picking up that glass of wine instead of feeling that feeling, feel the feeling first, then pick up the glass of wine if you need to. Sure. But just be mindful with yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. And if I could, we talked about this the other day, Angela, about how as difficult as it is, if we can acknowledge that fear, or ego rather, is connected to fear, and if we can just surrender and trust in the universe right now. And it sounds so massive and maybe a bit too hocus pocus for some,
right?
But if you can just have faith in that greater good, or that plan for you, that if you just have faith and surrender and commit to yourself.
And it's you gotta almost focus micro. Macro is a lot right now. Sure. Turning on the news, my heart feels about 1,000 pounds, and it's not that isn't happening when I shut it off, but there's something being asked of all of us right now to turn off our own egos, turn off our own fear, lean into the love within us. And I think one of my beautiful coach friends, I was I can't stop trying to do, I was telling her, I'm I just want to schedule my quarantine life. And I was just and she said the best thing to me. She said, the work is in the stillness right now. That is the work. The work is not in fixing things for people. The work is not in controlling so that you feel better about yourself. The work is in the stillness. And I've taken that as my own and shared that a lot, because it is the truth right now. So instead of focusing on, it's so easy to get inundated with the negative right now, but focus on your own journey or the people around you that you can support on a micro level. And I think that on a macro level, that will help us all.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. That brings us to an end, but what a beautiful way to end our chat. Angela, thank you so much for your time and your energy today. Thank you to everyone who showed up. It is truly my honor and my privilege to be able to chat with people like you, Angela, and to be able to share this experience with this amazing community every week. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me. I can feel the good energy from the group. And Jasmine, it's such a beautiful thing that you're doing here, especially in this time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.